some articles coming. Thank you, Sean, and your partner Nemo for writing that for us. Also, Alex is also saying, you know, PlanetInfowars.com is a good place for dating. Now, the internet can be a little tricky, you know, to find somebody you want to talk to and be friends with and stuff. But lucky for you guys, Herbic07 and Lady Liberty. Well, I guess not lucky for everyone, but lucky for these two. They found each other on PlanetInfowars.com a couple weeks ago, and they just want to let us know that that they're doing well. So I wanted to ask you two, Herbic07 and Lady Liberty, if it all works out, which one of you is going to be moving? Because one of you lives in Texas and the other one in Virginia, so I can't imagine the commuting is all that easy. Well, congratulations. And then lastly, we have a mission every week on the infographic group. This week, we've actually been doing fluoride. And the previous weeks have been things like guns, where we have InfoWars users send in pictures that they've designed, you know, on their Photoshop or Illustrator, or they've hand-drawn. And these are actually going to be used in all kinds of different places, on our Facebook, Alexander Emmerich Jones, or our Twitter, Real Alex Jones. We've even started a Pinterest, Real Alex Jones, where you can go and find these cool images. So those are awesome. Keep those coming. And actually, we have been hiring new reporters here in the studio, and one of them is Melissa Melton, and she actually got started and kind of discovered, if you will, through this infographic group. So we pay attention to a lot of really cool stuff on Planet InfoWars. And if you missed it, I'm wearing the In the Fed t-shirt, which when you see this message, the sale on it, it's $11.95 on sale in the InfoWars shop.com just for the end of the day till midnight. Now you can buy at regular price, but August 30th, by the end of the day, midnight, it's going to be, it'll go back to regular price. So get that while you can, and be as cool as me. No, I'm kidding, I'm teasing. So thanks for tuning in. Patriots out there, y'all are talking and we're listening. So till next time.
Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about 1.5 years ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of longevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals, but the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com. Sign up as a distributor and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com.
Welcome back to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm Aaron Dykes, and in just a moment, we're going to have a very interesting interview segment. But first, I want to thank Paul Joseph Watson for doing the News Blitz. And I also want to introduce Dan Badandi, one of our new reporters fielded from the reporter contest. Also an activist I've been following for years. He has a wealth of information. It's so interesting talking to him just behind the scenes here in the studio. And he's put together one of his first in-depth reports. It's going to be a two-part report on the government's admitted experimentation and testing on our own soldiers, hundreds of thousands of them, not to mention the other vulnerable and exploited groups they've also done tests on. So with no further ado, I give you Dan Badandi.
This is Dan Badandi reporting for the InfoWars Nightly News. You were always told that the American dream was owning your own home, driving a nice car, having a big family. But in addition, paying your dues to society by joining the armed forces, as seen by many as the right thing to do. But what if I was to tell you that in some cases, joining the military isn't exactly about defending our country, but about being a human test guinea pig for military classified medical experiments, which includes force medicated by drugs, inoculations, inhalation of poisonous gases, and even torture by electrical shocks. Now let's take a good look at this article from CNN. CNN reports vets feel abandoned after secret drug experiments. The moment 18-year-old Private Tim Joseph arrived at Edgewood Arsenal in 1968, he knew there was something different about the place. It just didn't look like a military base, more like a hospital, recalls Joseph, a Pittsburgh native. He quotes, "It was like a plum assignment. The idea they would be testing new Army field jackets, clothing, weapons, and things of that nature, but no mention of drugs or chemicals. But when he went to fill out the paperwork the morning after his arrival, the base personnel were wearing white lab coats, and Joseph said that he had second thoughts. An officer took him aside and told him, if you don't do it, you're going to jail." And then from 1955 to 1975, military researchers at Edgewood were using not only animals but human subjects to test witches' brews of drugs and chemicals. They range from potentially lethal nerve gases like VX and sarin to incapacitating agents like BZ. And the military also tested tear gas, tranquilizers, narcotics, hallucinogens like LSD. In this first report, it's a U.S. Army Chemical Research and Development Laboratory's technical report. And as we scroll through the document, you can see the chemicals that they use in reactions of BZ. And in this next document, it's called The Effects of Drugs on Human Operant Performance. And as we scroll through this document, in the highlights, you could clearly see that the United States Army used humans for test subjects. In this public record, titled Exclusive CIA Experiments on U.S. Soldiers Linked to Torture Program, a number of new articles have been published recently that have highlighted evidence of illegal human experimentation on U.S.-held terrorism prisoners undergoing torture. Then the article goes on to state that this report looks at those recent charges and reveals that experiments by a CIA researcher on human subjects undergoing SERE training went unreported in the legal memos of the Bush administration drafted to approve their torture program. It will also connect major military and intelligence figures to the SERE experiments and tie some of them to major science and experimental directorates at the CIA and Special Operations Command. And this article exposes the sinister plot called Project Shipboard Hazard and Defense, known as SHAD, was a program started back in the early 1960s to learn the vulnerabilities of U.S. warships during chemical and biological warfare attacks. Under Project SHAD were 113 different operations or tests. U.S. naval crews and Marine personnel were spraying various biological, chemical, germ warfare agents and simulants. Some ships and even Marine personnel were sprayed from overflying aircraft, while other tests on ships were being sprayed by aircraft carriers. While some high-ranking personnel may have had knowledge of what was happening, most of the ship's crews did not. Project SHAD was controlled by the U.S. Army Desert Test Center, later known as the Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah. And for over 35 years, the Department of Defense said there was no Project SHAD. This report and these military classified documents you have just seen are nothing but the tip of the iceberg. And keep in mind, folks, that most military are completely unaware that they are being tested on by their own government. In part 2 of this special report, we're going to look at government admission of using troops as guinea pigs and its links to suicides. And this is Dan Bedani reporting for the INFOWARS Nightly News.
Thanks, Dan, for that report. Very interesting indeed. Now, before we turn to our primary interview subject, Michael J. Murphy, I want to give you a preview of his latest film, Why in the World Are They Spraying? And it's fascinating, the agenda he's put together through his thorough research. Take a look.
My name is Scott Stevens. I was a television weatherman for 20 years. These chemtrails are absolutely required to impact whatever weather event they were designing. And the trails were an absolute necessary ingredient for them to achieve their weather modification goals.
Chemtrails are a key element in the whole thing because they're obviously a way of putting a highly reflective material into the atmosphere.
With cloud seeding, the cooling will be achieved by making clouds reflect a bit more sunlight back to space than they would otherwise, and less sunlight reaching the surface would tend to cool the planet.
So let's say we were doing geoengineering because we wanted to make the weather a little bit better.
The more we see these trails in the sky, the less rain we get. Virtually all scientific data, even from the proponents of geoengineering, state clearly saturating the atmosphere with particulates will create drought.
Much has been made of this issue of damage from precipitation.
If the issue is understanding the climatic response, which was, I think, most of where this was going, and it's exactly where the precipitation gets higher or lower.
There will be monsoon failures during that period. There'll be huge hurricanes.
It's likely to cause some damage in some places.
The global studies indicate there will be some impact on precipitation patterns, and obviously there's a lot more opportunity for work in that area. Just seeding can be pretty effective for the clouds we explored, but the interactions between seeding and precipitation in the form of drizzle are really complex.
So we're finding the aerosols, the metal particulates, the weather engineering, whether it's scalar, ionic, or orgone, or the chi of the atmosphere. All of those can be used and leveraged to create weather events that are several standard deviations or outside what would be typically normal.
40 brush forms known, the manzanita, and it looks like it's been hit with insecticide. And we're seeing this throughout the ecosystem. And there's virtually no growth, and we see whole plants, whole mature plants, 50, 60, 70-year-old, almost trees die out for no reason whatsoever that we can find other than the contaminated soils. So if it's in the rain, it's in the soil. And now we see incredibly hardy organisms dying for no other cause that we can find other than the contamination in our rain from these aerosol operations.
And so you get ecosystem collapses.
And if you control the weather, you're going to control the planet. It's that simple. The work we're doing will provide cover for others to come out. And I'm most interested in whistleblowers.
So that is the trailer for Why in the World Are They Spraying, the follow-up to the hugely provocative film What in the World Are They Spraying. We have both at INFOWARS.com. You can get just the new film, or you can get them both in the Chemtrails special package, discounted at $34.95. Why in the World Are They Spraying is $19.95. We are joined now by the main producer, one of the co-producers of both films, Michael J. Murphy. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having us on, Aaron, and thanks for covering this most dire issue. Those of us who have been researching this believe that there's been no greater threat to our planet than the ongoing chemtrail geoengineering programs that we're now experiencing around the world. So thank you.
So a lot of people saw the first film, What in the World Are They Spraying, and it was the right time for that film because it's something people have been talking about for decades. It had been admitted in different lingo in the academic circles. But by this point, it's become an unavoidable issue that no one in the media is talking about. There's no one giving answers on the issue other than a bunch of climate scientists saying it could be one way to solve what they say is the global warming problem. What have you really found? What kind of questions have come out since the first film? And what's been the overall public reaction that led you to make this follow-up film?
Well, the reaction was great. We went to a geoengineering conference and actually filmed geoengineers talking about their plans and proposals for spraying 10 to 20 million tons of toxic aluminum oxide and other particles into our sky. They state that these programs are for the mitigation of global warming. Aluminum oxide is very reflective, and that's the theory, that putting these aerosols into the sky will reflect the sun. Since we released What in the World Are They Spraying, people from around the world have been testing rain. Rain is a very good indicator of atmospheric contamination, and what they're finding around the world is what